Hello, loves, and welcome back to Boundaries Unleashed. We are in the middle of our WTF series, Wisdom, Target, and Freedom. And today we're talking about the T, Target. So a little recap here. Last week we explored wisdom, basically getting very clear about what we want. What do we want? And in this clarity stage, it really helps us slow down and really ask ourselves, what really matters to me? And when we can strip away any of the roles or any of the expectations, we can really get down to what we value most. And so that was what we covered in part one, the W wisdom. Today we're leaning into part two, which is target. Now, once you have all of that wisdom built up, right, the next natural question is, okay, but what the fuck do I actually want? And that's where the target comes in. So now we can start kind of aiming our energy and our wisdom towards something, toward what we actually desire. And not in the like Target store sense, right? I mean, how easy would it be to just walk down the aisle and just kind of pull stuff off the shelf? Like, this is what I want. This is what I want. And it would just, poof, boom, boom, it would be there. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about really aligning our wisdom to our action and really directing it toward a goal. And so the real target is about remembering, really, is how to aim our energy again. Because we have a lot of output. We're busy women. We're doing all the things. We're getting shit done. However, is it actually what needs to be done to meet the goals, to meet our expectations, not society's, not families, but are we meeting our own goals, our own agenda that lights us up? So it really allows us to reconnect with our dreams. It really allows us to reconnect with our desires. And, it asks us how we want to feel today, right? How do we want to feel today? How do we want to feel tomorrow? And quite honestly, beyond. So why do we forget to dream? Like, where in this do we forget, right? We're very active. We're very, task oriented, but somewhere along the way, we forget what our own dreams are. And like many of us, if you're like me, if you're a highly feeling woman, if you're an empath, if you're a recovering people pleaser, or just any deeply feeling human, we've gotten really, really good at dreaming for other people. We're very, very good at it. We're the best cheerleaders for our family, our friends, our partners, our loved ones. We will go to the ends of the earth and we are their biggest cheerleader. We cheer on everybody. But we really focus our energy on helping them imagine what's possible instead of our own lives, like what's possible for us. And when we sit to think about that, oftentimes we come up short or just blank. There's a blank page. We don't know how to fill it, right? We know we can see in other people the good and potential, and we're their biggest cheerleader, and we know exactly like step A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. But when it comes to our own lives, we often come up blank. We don't know where to start. We don't even know where to fill in. We don't even know what to trust. Like, is this really what I want? So there's a gap there. And, part of it is because, life can get heavy and it gets busy, and, that's natural to kind of shift focus on the day-to-day versus the target or dreams of tomorrow. And we just slip into survival mode. So it's very, very common. You got to do what you got to do. We're just trying to make it through the day, and and try to make it through the day without collapsing. And sometimes that's enough, right? That's the win. That's the success. And when we're in this mode, especially for a long period of time, dreaming feels like a luxury. And it feels like a luxury we don't have time for. So let me know if that resonates with you. I know for me, it felt like guilt really came up a lot. And I was like, oh, dreaming is for people with lots of time. Dreaming is with people with lots of money. Dreaming is for people who have big networks and support networks. It felt so luxurious. It felt so like out of reach for me. But the deeper truth here is when we stop dreaming for ourselves, when we stop tapping into hope, when we stop tapping into creativity and joy, those aren't extra. It may feel like that, or we may categorize, or we may, in our mindset, believe they are, but all of those things, hope, creativity, and joy, those are life forces. They actually energize us. They are sacred. And without them, of course, we're going to feel stuck. We're going to just feel not active, not energized, not alive. And so we want to be able to get that spark back. When we talk about target, what do I mean by target? We're not talking about rigid goals. We're not talking about, hard stops or some really high productivity focused kind of, nonsense where you have to check off like a list of 1,000 things to feel worthy, right? It's not about that. For me, target has 2 layers, and that's what I want to share with you guys today. And the first layer is it's the feeling state. What do you want to feel and experience today? How do you want to feel with your experiences today, regardless of what they are, regardless of what the circumstances are? Do you want to feel calm? Do you want to feel playful? Do you want to feel expansive, creative, loving? How do you want to feel? So this feeling state, this is the first layer of target. The second layer is the vision that you're holding for tomorrow. So this is that bigger dream that makes you excited to get out of bed in the morning. The one that despite challenges, despite, the suck of, the grind, if you will, but that there's, the light at the end of the tunnel, the rainbow, the metaphoric rainbow, whatever you want to tell yourself that, symbolizes this great dream for you. But it's that vision. It's like, I can see it. This is what I see for myself. This is what I see for my family. And so there's these 2 layers. There's this daily present piece, right? Like, how do I want to feel? What's the feeling state of today that I want to, live life in? And also, what is the vision of me tomorrow? What is the vision of me, future me? And the goal here is to have the 2 work together. So when you decide what you want to feel today, you can start aligning your energy. You can start aligning your actions and your environment to match that feeling. And when you give yourself permission to dream, there's just a magic that's activated. And when you just give yourself that permission, what you're doing is you're planting seeds. You're planting seeds for you to live the life that's yours, that is already there waiting for you, but you're just giving yourself permission to actually live it and be in it. And so for me, target has those 2 layers. It has that present, that immediate feeling state, what do I want to feel like today? And that future tense, what's the vision for tomorrow? What does that look like, and really tangibly? Now, I just want to give you a personal example because I'm all about, my life journey, and my personal journey is, what brought me into this boundary business, this coaching business. So I think it's always really important to not only share examples of clients I work with, but really share examples of my own life, because I walk the walk myself. And sometimes it's nice to just hear other people's journeys. So I like to share an example from my own life. And for me, where this target and dreaming and future-oriented self comes into play is when I was early into motherhood, when my daughter was very young. This was right before COVID. She's a COVID baby. I was deep in motherhood. I was deep into my brick and mortar Pilates studio business. There was so many obligations going on. Like, I was in it. I was in the thick of it. And there is a point I remember, I don't know if it was my sister or if it was a client. I can't remember, but that's another detail. I don't know if I was complaining or just like, oh, I'm so tired, or I'm doing this, or I've got this going on. And I just remember them asking me, what do you want? And I didn't know how to answer that. I'd spent years envisioning having my own Pilates studio. I envisioned like what that looked like, the growth and evolution of that. But I was in the middle of having a fitness business in COVID. I was a new mom. My husband was still deploying. I had a baby, a toddler, and all this. And I didn't know how to answer that question. I didn't know what I wanted. Like, my life had completely felt like it had shifted when my daughter was born. And I just sat there and understood that, like, man, I stopped dreaming. I didn't know what the future vision looked like. And I didn't realize that I had stopped dreaming. I didn't realize that I had stopped, projecting into my future until like I was in the weeds and, they asked me that question. And so then when I realized that, I just started asking myself, let's not worry about this 5-year plan, right? Let's not worry about what's the real future hard productivity, outcome focused goal here. But how do I want to feel today? So I really brought it back to like the minute by minute in the present moment. How do I want to feel today? And that's when I realized that I was missing the playfulness, right? I had a toddler, I had a baby. She plays all day, eat, sleep, play. And I found myself just going from task chore, doing this chore, trying to do this work call, this work email, this client session, this meeting. I just didn't have that fun factor was lacking in my life. And so I just wanted to feel playful. You know, I wanted to laugh more with my daughter. I didn't want to rush through the bedtime routine and just try to squeeze as much work before I collapsed at night in bed on my pillow. And so just this simple target of wanting to feel more playful, that's really what cracked something bigger in me, because it reminded me that I have big dreams and I have bigger dreams, and I wanted all those things. I wanted expansiveness. I wanted more time freedom, and I wanted to run my business in a way that supported me. I wanted it to support the energy I had instead of pulling energy from me and draining. So it's those shifting from that daily, how do I want to feel? What's the energetic state that I want to embody right now that is going to feel expansive and, time freedom-esque? And how can I activate that today? Why does it have to wait 5 years from now for me to start feeling like that now? And it's when I shifted that focus, that's what carried me all the way to living here in Australia, right? It started that just wanting that to feel more playful. And I started changing things in my day-to-day to do that. And then it totally shifted how I show up in my business. It totally shifted my business in general. I transitioned from brick and mortar to an online business. That's how I got into the coaching world. And it's even gone through with my evolution of my business and my podcast. And so it all started with wanting to feel more playful. So let that be a lesson to all of us that, don't underestimate these small targets, because sometimes it's that small shift that leads to those bigger, more tangible, like, ooh, I can actually see a change that has happened. Right? Those small shifts, they're the doorways to the big ones. So how can we kind of activate this for you? I want to give you a practical tool to analyze this and figure it out for yourself. So I want you to grab a journal or even just open up your notes app, and I want you to try this. So I want you to write down, if I could wave a magic wand, what is one feeling that I would love to have more of in my daily life right now? So if you could wave a magic wand, what is one feeling that you'd love to have more in your daily life right now? Maybe it's ease, more ease. Maybe it's joy. Maybe it's confidence. Okay, you know the answer. Just write it down. What's that state of being that you want to embody right now, or more of right now? And then secondly, I want you to ask yourself, what is one dream that I used to have that still lights me up when I think about it? Okay, I don't want you to judge it, all right? Don't worry if it's practical or not. I just want you to notice what stirs within you, okay? And so that's important to not judge it, or even if it doesn't make any sense, like even if it's improbable, like I want to be a unicorn, whatever. Just think about a dream that you used to have, right? We all used to dream. We all have dreams. And so when you sit and think about it, what is one of those that still makes you smile, that still stirs something inside of you? And just notice what that is. And I want you to write that down. Now, the key here is when we take these two things, right, these two target layers, and put them together. So I want you to figure out, with this more clarifying wisdom that we've crafted here, what is one small step that you can take this week toward that dream? Okay? What is one small step? So maybe it's signing up for a class. Maybe it's putting your art supplies on the table so it reminds you to start drawing again. Maybe it's saying no to something that drains you so you actually have space to, I don't know, dance in your living room, have a music party, or call the friend that you've been meaning to catch up with, or actually take the hike that you've had on your calendar forever and just never got around to, or trying that restaurant, whatever it is. So what is one small step that you can take this week that brings you closer to that dream? Even if it's just the essence or has the same energetic footprint of the bigger goal, what can you do this week? Okay. And that's your target. The target doesn't have to be this big leap. It can be very much a small step, right? It can be a half step. It can be, lifting your foot off the ground. You get to decide what that target is. And so how do we want to feel? What is the vision, right? What is the dream? And what is an action that we can take that takes us a little bit closer or embodies that energetic feeling of that goal to get us to feel how we want to feel? So that's your formula there. And I always like to put a spiritual framework on this, reframe, to be a balanced person. There's always that spiritual side, especially when you're on a personal development journey. There's always that spiritual reframe. And I always like to offer a mystical reminder. And that is that these targets that we're creating, it's not about perfection. And I know if you're like me, I'm like, oh, I'm a recovering people pleaser, but I'm also a recovering perfectionist. And you want to get everything right. You never want to miss anything. And, one miss feels like this huge setback. Targets aren't about perfection, right? They're more about remembering how to aim your energy. So it's not about, being busy for business sake, but directing that energy so it's actually useful. Okay, so it's not about perfection. It's about aiming that energy. It's zoning in and actually directing it toward what you desire. And when you aim your energy, even imperfectly, it creates a ripple. There are effects, right? It triggers this energetic state. It creates a vibe. It creates momentum. It creates motivation. And so I think about that too, like, especially when it comes to tarot, like the star card, right? It's a beautiful card about hope, and it comes directly after the Tower, which typically is a card that shows up when everything's falling apart. So it's almost like this energetic swing. But there's darkness, there is light, and that star is that little glimmer of hope. It's the reminder that the light is still in there. It's a reminder that it's guiding you. Think about this as far as your dreams too. Like that star, that hope is still inside you. It's about allowing it to come to the surface and allowing it to actually move you, literally and metaphorically move you. So your dreams are not silly. Your dreams are not silly, even if it's to become a unicorn, even if it's I want to be an astronaut, even if it's I want to be a 5-star chef, whatever it is. Our dreams are medicine. They are sacred. They are just a manifestation of our magic, and they're the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. That's what dreams are. So they're not silly at all. Dream away, my friend. All right, so there it is, loves. T is for target. So when you know your wisdom, then you can set your targets. And suddenly the path doesn't feel so tricky anymore. It doesn't feel so foggy anymore. You feel a lot less stuck. Now, next week, we're going to finish this WTF series with F, which stands for freedom. And so we're going to be talking about staying present with your dreams without the guilt, and pivoting with grace if needed and without ever feeling like a failure. So that's going to be a juicy one. So make sure you're subscribed for that. And it just completes this series just beautifully. And remember, this whole series is leading up to something special. We are going to be joining together for a workshop. So I'm hosting a free private workshop called the WTF Sacred Circle. We're going to gather for an hour of reflection. We're going to gather for practical tools. I'm going to give you a nice workbook that we're going to complete together in real time. And so it's like a beautiful workshop that's really going to help you integrate all of these aspects: the wisdom, the target, and the freedom. So this is your reset. It's your chance to feel clear. This is your chance to feel energized and free, even when the world feels chaotic, because it's super chaotic right now. So this workshop will feel very grounding, and it feels right. It just feels right. So grab your spot now. I'll put the link in the show notes for you. And of course, if you're ready to take this even deeper, you don't have to wait for the workshop. You can contact me directly. We can do some nice one-on-one coaching together, or you can dive into my LEAP coaching program. I'll let you decide how you want to start. But first, let's get you in the circle. Let's get you in this workshop, the WTF Sacred Circle, and start there. Now, I'll see you next week for freedom. And until then, I want you to set your target. I want you to let yourself dream and dream big. Your desires are not selfish. They're sacred. All right, y'all. And always remember, love yourself like you mean it. Bye for now.